the show, The Biggest Loser, right? Did you find it that people struggle more with dieting or actually going to the gym and working out? What do you think is the biggest challenge for people?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we're in kind of a bubble there. We're out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, out on a ranch 25 miles from the town. The contestants stay there. They don't have their phone. It's really one of those things that working out isn't like, they work out with myself. We get them just moving a lot. I think the hard thing is when they go home and sticking to those diets. But even harder than working out or eating right, the hardest thing is dealing with and what I mean by that is every person out there has been through things in their life. And the people on the show, a lot of them, I feel they have a lot of guilt, whether it's they feel guilty for something that was, some event that happened in their childhood, or they feel like they're people pleasers and they're always giving so much to other people that they don't have time for themselves. They maybe have gotten an injury, and very few people I think get overweight just because they love eating so much. I think that they treat food as a drug, and I think that it's true with the people on the show that if you could get to that root of that problem, if you can get to that and understand why they feel the need to turn to food as an emotional thing, why they feel if you can get into that and really uncover that, and then give them some tools to really help them deal with those. We had a psychiatrist on staff out there that they did a psychiatrist meeting once a week, and we got them talking about, okay, when you binge eat, when you go and you smash that whole pizza, or when you go through, 3 different drive-throughs and eat in your car, like, what are you going through? Why do you feel like that? What's triggering? Is stress, relationships, what? If you can get to that problem with people, that's the first step, because you might be able to make them, you might help them lose weight in that isolated place that you're at with them for 10 weeks. You're out there with them, you're training, you're watching what they eat. Of course, they're on a TV show, they're being held accountable. But if you can get to those problems and those issues, those deep-seated issues as to why they feel the need to turn to food, that way when they go home, they have the tools to deal with them, and they have this insight. They're realizing, they're self-realizing that, hey, I'm eating that right now, not because I'm hungry, but because I'm trying to sabotage a certain situation, or because I don't love myself enough, or, this and that. And, that's nothing really new, but I think it's really, a lot of times people don't necessarily understand why, like until they start talking with someone, or until, I told them when I was out there, like when I was going through my bodybuilding days, I felt this need to be perfect. I was getting magazine covers, I was winning shows. And if I didn't always have a 6-pack, I would feel like I was letting people down. If I wasn't, 5%, I was letting people down, because, that kid that has a magazine on his wall, he thinks that I always look like that. And if I don't look like that, then I'm letting that person down. And, so that's something that I had to go through in my own life. And I remember when I first kind of got started off in the fitness industry, I think about 1.5 years, 2 years into it, I was traveling around the world with Optimum Nutrition. I was working at a restaurant, and there'd be nights I would be in the back working at the restaurant, all day long. I had been on my diet, but I would be eating ice cream in the back. No one's around. It's in the dark pretty much. And I'm eating ice cream from the restaurant I'm working at. And then I would just feel more guilty, which would lead me to more binge eating. And it was just one of those things that it's like, we're our own worst enemies. We put this pressure on ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to be human. And I think for a lot of these people, there's a ton of guilt associated with food. And that just needs to be removed first and foremost.
That's very interesting. And I also, that's probably the reason why a lot of bodybuilders off season, they wear baggy clothes to cover up, what they consider to be imperfections, right? I mean, you've probably seen a lot of that in the industry.
Yeah, and unfortunately for girls, it's so much more like, oh my gosh, that poor girl, metabolic damage, what did she do to herself? That coach, probably had her doing too much cardio and not eating. And while that's part of it, it happens to guys just as much. But with females, it's more obvious, because they're always, if they're at an expo, they're not wearing baggy clothes.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of unfortunate, because guys kind of can get away with it in the name of bulking, in the name of, oh, I'm just trying to gain muscle. And girls are these poor ladies. I can't tell you how many females that I've talked to where they do have metabolic damage from dieting and dieting and dieting, and they do a show. And of course, whenever we push our bodies to an extreme, that extreme level of leanness, it wants to come back to that middle line. And a lot of times, your body's craving all of these nutrients, and you just eat. And these poor girls, if they gain 15 pounds over what they were on stage, a lot of them will do it 2-3 weeks after the show. Boom, they're 15 pounds heavier, and people don't necessarily recognize them. Some of these big bodybuilders will gain 30-40 pounds over 2-3 weeks after their show. And again, with them, it's like, oh, he's into his off season. And obviously you need to slowly increase calories, no matter if you're a girl or a guy, after your show. The hardest thing to do, in my opinion, as a bodybuilder or fitness competitor, whether it's bikini or whatever, is to reverse diet. You now have to still watch your calories and slowly reverse diet out of a show if you don't want to just blow up, because your body's so sensitive and wants those calories.